community, family, and friends was the number one. That's all I would, if I was going to really go and analyze this data and do anything with it, all I need to know is what was the number one. And I would print out my entire database and I would go through and just be like, all right, in all the time that I've lived in Reading, who are people that as we have grown up in this area, as we have lived our lives, or we've watched our kids all grow up, most of the kids have gone off to college as of right now, who are the ones that maybe their family isn't here anymore? Maybe that reason that they were here and living that life, that's starting to really change. The kids aren't involved in sports anymore, and that's keeping them with all these relationships they have.
Welcome back, everyone, to Life at 10 Tenths, where we inspire you to live at the pinnacle of your ability and purpose. Garrett Fry, my great co-founder and co-host, is here. And then I, Matt Benelli, the other co-founder and co-host, is here as usual. And you guys are here as usual, which is great. If it's your first time joining us, guys, welcome. Welcome to Life at 10 Tenths. We're so excited you're here. And for all those of you who haven't done a business plan yet for this year, it is not too late. And if you're like, well, I don't know, I'll just do the things that I have. Having a great business plan can help you not only stay focused, but our business planning workshop is different because if you finish your business plan, you get to join us for a mastermind each quarter to help you stay on track. So go to 10tenths.co/GPS, see all the details there and join us. And without further ado, we have some more data to look at today, Garrett. This is going to be fun to talk about why sellers sell their home. And this is fun.
Well, Matt, what's interesting is that we know that there's a handful of things: babies being born, kids going off to college, job promotion, job demotion. There's certain things that make people buy or sell. We've helped people build entire warm lists around, what makes people buy or sell. Which is interesting is that as you were going through the profile of home buyers and sellers, you brought up, but there's one. There's one that's leading the charge right now. And I think there's a lot of reasons to this about why this is coming up as the number one thing, which is community, is what you brought up. Community is the number one reason that people are buying and selling right now. And if I look at all the reasons that people bought or sold, let's say in the last 5 years, I don't think we saw a massive amount of people, Matt, move through the time of COVID, 2020, 2021. We saw this huge shift of people. And it would be interesting to go back and look at those numbers and what caused people to move. What was the number one reason? If you look at like the 2022 profile of home buyers and sellers, I want to go back and look at that because I don't think that was community at all. I think because we couldn't be around people. We really didn't have, it wasn't about living down the street from grandma so we could walk the grandkids down the street. It was, we're all trying just to find a space that we can feel comfortable in, but it was more internal. I think it's really interesting that it's community right now.
That's a good point. And I will say, so when we say community, on the NAR profile of home buyers and sellers this year, the number one across all sellers is moving closer to friends and family. And I would even argue that some of those COVID moves, Garrett, because they were such longer distance and they have it broken down into the distance, right? Once you get above 50 miles from the distance of move, it's 45% of people are moving because of that reason, to be closer to friends or family. And I think COVID unlocked that opportunity for people during those years. However, the other aspects of community, maybe not so much, because there's some other categories here too. And I will say the asterisk here is that for people who are making hyper-local moves, so 10 miles or less, moving closer to friends or family is not the number one because they're already there.
We're here.
The number one categories there are house is too small or it is too large. I'm a great example of that. We had our second child. House is too small, time to get a bigger child. I don't know where that fits me in this stat though, Garrett, because they also have a change in family situation as the reason for the move. So, but when you get into marriages and divorces, that's different than maybe the size of the home. So the other community aspect here though, before you get into this is the neighborhood is less desirable, which is another one that's in there. But anyway, go ahead. Sorry.
Well, I had this vision for a second of like, when you're talking about less than 10 miles, kind of making a move, it's not really about the friends and family and things like that. And I had this picture in my head of like, yeah, we know the Smiths. We love the Smiths. They live here in town with us. They're good friends of ours, but they're moving 3 houses down. I don't want the Smiths.
Well, that could be different, right? That's in the neighborhood has now become less desirable because the Smiths are 3 doors down.
Now we have to move.
We're out. Oh man, it is funny. It is, but you look at these things, Garrett, and we talk about life changes are the reasons why people make moves, and it is, but it kind of rolls into these primary categories of how close can I be to my friends and family? What's the size of my home as it functions for us as a family? And what is our familial status? Like those are the top 4. Then we have the desirability of the neighborhood, which factors in. But you know, if we're trying to find all the people who are just changing because of jobs and all that stuff, I mean, that happens. Those stats are there, but and this it made me think, Garrett, that the conversations that we can have with our database don't need to be so specific necessarily about real estate. It just needs to be questions about their lifestyle. Because if we're like, hey, like, who are you hanging out with? What are you doing for fun? I mean, this is why people will move, like in the Charleston area, from like, you know, Johns Island where I live to James Island, you know, which is pretty close, but but I want to be in the same neighborhood as my friends and family, or like my parents are up in Somerville, so I'm going to move up there, which is, you know, okay. Like that makes sense to me. And so if you understand that about your people, who are their friends, who are their family, what's going on in their family, it's going to be a lot easier to understand those pain and pleasure points that actually are truly going to be the indication of, are they in a position to potentially make a move?
Well, you said COVID kind of unlocked that. And I think it didn't unlock it unlocked it in a weird way up front. I think as we were able to come back together with more people is where all of a sudden we realized, oh my gosh, it's not just about me being able to work remotely up from Steamboat and be able to ski all the time. It's like, I need to get back to around my people also. I need to build these connections. Yeah. And we watched a lot in people's real estate businesses where as things got more stressful, as the world kind of continued to evolve here, more and more people came back to friends. I saw referral relationship businesses spike over the last 2 years. And I feel a lot of that was because people were saying, I want to work, I want to be around people that I'm comfortable with. I don't want too much confusion, and I don't want to be caught off guard too much. And I think that when you look at moving back into communities, moving back into areas where more people are like you and you can have like conversations, we want that comfort in our world. We want to have that as much as possible. I'm going to take this a weird route here just for a second, but Zillow years ago, I was reading a report and they were talking about how much information that they have on people, how much information that they gather. And one of the stats that they gather in their services is they actually have a spot in there, whether you are a Republican or whether you are a Democrat. They don't share it, but it's a little lever that if they wanted to go blink and flip it, like you could, at least this was the old report that I read, like they could, when you look at the map of Zillow, you would see what areas are blue.
I don't want to move next to them. They vote the opposite way as I do.
But what's interesting, and they made the comment, they said, we will never turn that on because what would instantly happen is you would watch entire neighborhoods turn red, turn blue, as people just wanted to be around people that spoke the same language as them. And I think we naturally gravitate towards this. So at the end of the day, Matt, with you sharing this, that like most people are moving to be around family, friends, people they have relationships with. I think it's a really important thing to watch in our databases. As we are building our connections and we're building our relationships, listen to what's going on in their worlds, because you can probably predict pretty quickly when someone's going to be making a move in the future.
Yeah.
I've watched all of a sudden somebody's having a baby and you watch grandparents pick up and move from a neighborhood they've been in their entire life because they're like,
massive.
I want to be down the street. Matt, you're a prime example.
I was just going to say, like, Jen and I moved here because we wanted a lifestyle. We were probably in the other category that is listed here because they didn't have like, wanted a better lifestyle. That would be a fun thing. Interesting. They do have a politics of state/neighbors. Now that is a reason for selling, because once you live somewhere, you kind of get to know the politics, but outrageously low. Like 2% of people move because of their neighbor's politics or their state politics, which I find is hilarious when, you have, all the elections that go on. Every year there's like a mayoral or a governor election. People are like, oh man, they're coming. They're going to move on this one. And it's like, why didn't they move? It's like, well, I mean, so we moved. Both my parents and Jed's parents eventually moved here. And that was all to be closer to family, period. And now that we live here, we are unlikely to now make a move that is large because our family is here. So our moves are probably going to be exclusively based on size of home, functionality of home, or lifestyle, exclusively.
So I live in Redding, California, and my mother still holds it against me that I moved from Grants Pass down to Redding. But it's interesting is like now that we're here, like we are here until certain things happen. Sarah's parents, you know, they're right now, they're living here. We're here next to them. We're going to be around them until anything changes. Very good chance my mom's going to make the move down here at some point. My mom's 83 and that conversation's happened of like, well, maybe I should get closer down by you guys. Interesting is like, I'm now at a place that my kids are starting to venture out around the world. And my daughter just moved to Hawaii, who you got to meet, Jocelyn, if you listened to the episode that just recently went out. You know, she's living in Hawaii now. She's probably going to be there for a while. I'm watching her like put her roots in out there and be like, oh my gosh, this is my place. And I'm watching my other daughter that's getting ready that when she graduates, she's not coming back to Redding. She's going to probably go down south. She's got a job opportunity already down there and that's all lined up. And then Sarah and I are going to be in a position for probably a handful of years, but there's going to be a moment when both Sarah and I are going to go, I think Redding's done for us. And it's, Matt, it's all going to come down to community. It's all going to come down to where are our friends, where are our people. A lot of our friends are nomadic. So I had this weird feeling like, I don't think we're going to have a place to go move to of like all of our friends are here. It's more going to be find a place that we can easily go and get to all of our friends, which that'll be an interesting time. But again, this is a huge factor that causes people to make these moves. And any of the moves that we're going to watch in our family are all about getting closer to the loved ones. That's what's going to happen here.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, it's just so, when you look at, I encourage everybody to go take a look at this report. If you're an NAR member, it's $20. So I think they're actually running a New Year promotion so you can get it for like 15. So totally worth just to have fun looking at the data. I'm not saying you should use this data to change anything about how you run your business, particularly if your business is going great. It's just fun to see. And for me, it just highlights like something that I would pay attention to in my conversations with people is I'd want to learn more about their friends and their lifestyle primarily, because that's going to be the biggest driver in what they do with their real estate. Because yes, there are people who are going to sell because it's too much to upkeep, right? There's going to be people who move because of retirement, because of jobs, because of, we even have in here, schools became less desirable, is interesting, was only 1%. I guess that is a good indication that all of our schools are on the up and up. If schools are not becoming less desirable, that's a good thing.
That's good.
You know, but there's not a thing on here, Garrett, for people moving to a school district, which is interesting because they want schools that are better. Maybe that's factored into the change in family situation potentially, but or maybe it's an other.
But for me, if I knew
the other category,
if I knew community, family, and friends was the number one, that's all I would. If I was going to really go and analyze this data and do anything with it, all I need to know is what was the number one. And I would print out my entire database and I would go through and just be like, all right, in all the time that I've lived in Redding, who are people that as we have grown up in this area, as we have lived our lives, or we've watched our kids all grow up, most of the kids have gone off to college as of right now, who are the ones that maybe their family isn't here anymore? Maybe that reason that they were here and living that life, that's starting to really change. The kids aren't involved in sports anymore, and that's keeping them with all these relationships they have. I'm a prime example. I was walking around town the other day and I'm like, man, it's a different experience walking around this town right now than what it was 10 years ago. 10 years ago, I bumped into everybody everywhere I went. Like that was people used to go like, do you know everybody here? Well, I was kind of in that fishbowl of that moment of the people that were very engaged with the stuff around downtown. I go out now and you don't find the same amount of people because everybody is out doing other things. They've all spread out a little bit. I would totally sit down with my database and go, knowing this person, do their parents still live here? Are their parents still alive? Are their kids now graduated and have they moved out? And I can probably put a little bit of like, I should be paying a little bit closer attention to those people. I might want to go take, that person out for a beer and just reconnect and see where their world's at right now. Not in chasing them for business, but just knowing there's a very good chance they're going to need my help. There's a very good chance they're going to need my guidance here coming up. It might be this year. It might be in 5 years. But like, I want to put myself and use my time as wise as possible and put myself around the right people, knowing that community and family and friends is the number one reason people move. I'd be paying attention to it.
Yeah, dude, I would, the strategy is very, very clear. Of all those things that you just listed, if any of those people, family and friends, have moved, and this is what's crazy, 51 miles or more away. So we're talking like an hour drive, just an hour. If they've moved an hour plus, them selling, they have about almost a 50% possibility that that's the reason why they're going to sell their house. And so all you need to do, you don't need to ask about their house or their real estate. You just ask them about their kids. How's Jocelyn loving Hawaii? Tell me about it. I want to know all about what Jocelyn is doing down in Hawaii, right? Tell me about Celeste's new job. Tell me all about what she's doing in her new job. Every time I would talk to Garrett, that's what I would be asking about and learning about, because that is the connection there, right? And like, it's easy. Now, if you get closer, the people who are local, you're like, their friends and family are here. I would probably talk to them about the size of their home, particularly if you sold them that house. Hey, how's the house still working out for you? Yep. Right? How are you guys loving the backyard? How are you doing this and everything? Because the next grouping are people who have, and they separated it out, house is too small versus house is too large. For people who are in the 10-mile radius, 22 and 18% small or large are the reasons why they move. So if that's the reason, I'd just talk to them about their house, or I'd pay attention to, like, the Johnsons had another baby and they don't have another bedroom. They're going to need a bigger house.
Well, and I look at our home. Again, as I just said, my kids are kind of spreading out around the United States right now. I've raised 3 kids in this house. My son's still here. He's 18 years old, but this is a big home. And Sarah and I, there's maintenance happening on this house right now. I've got a leak that for the last 3 years we've been trying to figure out. And it's just one of those things that I'm kind of over it and done with the whole thing. I'm watching a deck that's going to need to be refinished at some point in time. There's a crack in my front driveway that I'm just like, oh man. But yeah, it's a 30-year-old driveway. Like, at some point here, there's things that just need to be replaced and fixed and maintained. And both Sarah and I have had this moment of like, someday there's going to be a little like 2-bedroom, maybe even a 1-bedroom, could very well be a shipping container, maybe 2, give us a little extra room that we want to build out. We're going to make it as low maintenance as we possibly can. It's going to be one of those crazy things that's just like, look, I just want to be able to have a view, a fireplace, be able to kick back and relax and have a place that we can be together. People's lives change. And, as Matt, as you said, you get this big old house that we have all these great memories in. There's a certain place there. It's like, it's time. It's time to let it go. Yeah. It's time to move along. And again, if you're really paying attention to your people, you can see these things on the horizon. You can see them happen. It's not magic. It's not something that you're like, I never saw that coming. You don't have to pay attention very hard to go like, yeah, that makes total sense. That was probably going to happen. Paul Schneider, who we had on the podcast here a while back, I've coached Paul for years. He always told me, he says, if somebody goes directly onto my hot list, which means they get a hold of them and says, we need to buy or sell, and they weren't on the warm list before, and he functions his warm list the way I taught him, which is just life changes.
Yep.
If they skip the warm list and go directly to the hot list, he's like, shame on me. He goes, I should have been paying better attention to them. I was not engaged enough. I wasn't listening enough. I wasn't involved with them enough to be able to see the move that it was inevitable. And it's a great mindset to be in, to ask yourself, am I truly listening to, engaging, and surrounding myself with my people enough so that I can see these life changes before they actually take place?
Just
kind of
that's a great point. the only people who should skip the warm list are referrals, meaning you didn't know them before anyway. So there was no opportunity to have them on the warm list. And so, I mean, I would start if you've never done that, if you've never done a life changes list, don't focus on when people are going to tell you when they're going to buy or sell, because that's a lie. They're just giving a number because that's the best they can do. Focus on these two things, their family and friends, the community aspect of their lifestyle, and the size of their house. If you just start there, you'll probably be like, oh, here's some people I can pay attention to. Now, we're not saying they're going to move tomorrow. They may not move for years. I've seen people wait years to make that move that they've always wanted to make. But it gives you the keys to how you can converse with them and learn about them over time. And it doesn't mean that you got to be talking to them every single week. But these are the things that when you do talk to them, you want to make sure you ask about. Right? Like if you're a realtor in Redding and you're not talking to Garrett when you see him at the local beer garden about Jocelyn in Hawaii, you are missing out on a massive opportunity to build a relationship and better understand what could potentially be going on there. Well, so you never know.
And interesting too, the longer that my daughter stays there, the chances of Sarah and I going, what if we got a little Airbnb and we bought something there that we can rent out, but we have a place we can go visit her and we can go see her, and then it's an investment too at the same time. What if? Like all of a sudden, yes, Matt?
This is the other side of it too. If you know people who have family that are at a distance and you assess the situation, because this wouldn't be necessarily a warm list, but like if I knew Jocelyn and I'm in Hawaii, they're like, oh, your parents are in California. That's cool. Like how you love and live. I'm going to stay here for the rest of my life. I'd be like, oh, interesting. Right. I would stay in touch with Jocelyn knowing that I might be able to get a referral from her for her parents who may want to buy a property here. Like, so this can work on the buy side too. When you look at the family and friend situations of people, it doesn't necessarily always correlate to them selling. Cause like, if you know me, like we're not going anywhere. The family is here. However, could we maybe draw more family and friends here? Potentially. I mean, the grandparents are here. So, and my brother's probably not coming. So we might be tapped out, but you never know.
I do think it's interesting, Matt, and I think it's for the listeners out there, is that we're not saying chase people or build relationships just because of there's a potential of real estate. What we really want to do is build really good quality relationships. When you see patterns in front of you, this is like any good financial investor. When they see patterns, they follow the patterns, and they go, okay, we can see how this is going to work. It's a good idea to spend my time and energy in these areas because it's just kind of inevitable that I'm going to be financially successful with those investments. When you look at real estate, there's spaces you can just go like, look, I have a choice every single day where I get to spend my time, where I get to spend my energy, who I'm going to hang out around. And do I want to hang around, this group over here and spend my time over here, or do I want to spend my time over here? I remember an agent years ago that I was coaching, and their whole goal was to talk to 50 people per week. And they came to me and they're like, I did it. I'm talking to 50 people per week. And I'm like, how did you do it? And she was like, I volunteering down at the soup kitchen and I was like, okay, we're making choices of who we're going to spend our time with. Would I say to her, don't ever go do that? That's a waste of your time. What do you get out of that? What is the benefit to you? And there's obviously reasons that it was an amazing thing that they were doing. But at the same point of going, time spent around people when it comes to growing and building this business, we don't want to get fooled that just people are people. Because at the end of the day, we all operate differently. Some of us have higher potentials of needing your help, needing your expertise. And when you find people that potentially need your expertise, just go, it's a good idea for me to spend a little bit extra time building a relationship, connecting with these people because they need my expertise. I don't know when, might be now, might be in 5 years, but I'm not going to pressure them. I'm not going to be like, so that big old house of yours, you guys just must be rattling around in there right now. Like, we're not going to go that route. But we do want to be able to spend more time and connect with them. And when they need your help, that's the thing. I have guidance and professional, expertise I can bring to them if they need it, and they might need it.
Yeah. Absolutely. This was fun for me seeing these numbers, Garrett. I like doing these numbers. It was fun doing the FSBO one and then this one kind of back to back. It's funny. I was thinking when you were bringing up like, oh, how's that big old house? Rattling came right to my mind too. That's so funny you said that. But it was interesting. Houses have gotten a lot smaller with cell phones, which like even like our house, like I'll be upstairs, my wife will be downstairs and she'll like call me on this. I'm like, why did you call me? Big houses have gotten smaller thanks to some tech. Anyway, guys, I am curious, guys. I would love your feedback on these episodes and like what your experience is when we talk about things like stats, right? Because these are obviously nationwide stats, and one of the best ways to do that is you can go over to our YouTube channel.
Yep.
Because we post all this stuff on YouTube if you're listening on audio, and you can comment right below there, or download the Life at 1010s app and comment right on our podcast publishings because we publish the podcasts in the app so that you can comment and converse about them. We had a lot of comments, Garrett, on the one we talked about suing buyers for breaking buyer broker agreements, and a lot of comments coming on that one, which has been really fun to kind of have those conversations and see people's opinions. So we value you guys so much with that stuff.
I did have some interesting conversations so far, and I'm learning more, and I have a feeling we're going to learn even more. That is a can of worms that I think we're just scratching the surface on right now.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
So
no doubt it is.
Well, with that being said, thank you so much, everybody who joined us today for we're about a half an hour into this right now. And we appreciate all of you. We appreciate your comments and your input and your feedback on our episodes. At the same point, we do have business planning. We're going to continue to talk about business planning here. You'll probably hear about it for about the next month right now, because you still have time to get a business plan done. And I would much rather you go into this year with actual clarity and direction and a purpose, rather than just saying, I know I want to make money. I know how this business works. I'm just going to show up and do my best. Because that is not necessarily a plan to get you to where you want to go. You're typically at the mercy of the marketplace if you're taking that approach. And those are the people that, you might get to the end of this year and go, wow, I had a better year than I ever expected. Or you might get to the end of the year and say, this is not where I wanted to be, but you were not in control. And we want to put the control in your hands. So come grab a business plan, come check that out, be part of the group there with us. And again, we're going to be doing these quarterly masterminds, which I'm super excited about. And with that being said, Matt, have an amazing day, man. Everybody out there, have a great day, make it the best, and we will be back soon.
Take care, everyone.